Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and fight fans around the world. It's your boy P. Welsh here for another UFC picks, previews, and predictions. We got UFC Fight Night Tybura versus Spivac 2. A little recap from last week: went 8-5, 6-1 on the main card. So let's get into it. I'm excited to move on. We have another, positive week, and I'm feeling really good about this one. We're starting off in the women's strawweight division. We got Stephanie Luciano versus Talita Alankar. Records not up there. 5-1-1 versus 5-0-1. They drew their fight against each other on the Contender Series. And after that, I guess they decided to run it back here. And this is kind of like the tale of two styles, right? You have Luciano, rangier striker, and then Alan Carr is more of a grappler. I was gonna go watch it back, but I had to get the video recorded. Though time's a little tight this week for me. I'm gonna go Luciano on the rematch. I think the striker has a better opportunity to make adjustments on the ground game and not make mistakes get taken down. I was really initially leaning Alan Carr just because of the style, but seeing that it was a rematch, seeing that there's a big metric advantage for Luciano with a younger age. I think that the rejuvenation, I think the go again is going to be the beneficial for the younger fighter. I'm thinking it's probably going to go the distance again. Very close fight. I mean, a draw is as close as you can get, right? 185 favorite for Luciano and 154 underdog for Alan Carr. And I mean, I like this fight going to the decision. I think it's going to be a very closely contested fight. I think we want to see the prospects of Luciano really come up to the top, cream rise to the top. She's much younger, much more gifted physically, and I think that's where she'll see the advantage this time. I think she'll get a unanimous decision. I think she'll fight a little better and do more damage from the start. Not get caught in a mistake, get taken down, and maybe her defense or get up time is better. I'm going Luciano first fight on the card. Hopefully they take it home a dub. Boom! Moving on here. We're going to the men's featherweight division. We got Youssef Zala, 14-5-1 versus Gennaro Urans, 14-5-1. Exact same record. Pretty crazy, right? And metrics looking pretty similar. A little bit of an advantage for Aaron's. And I have to say, I know Zala is the favorite, and I'm definitely leaning towards him being the favorite. I think he has a little bit more juice in the tank, right? Wins against, some top prospects, and to go against somebody like Aaron's who hasn't shown his best performances, recently, right? He's lost to guys that are talented and competitive, and I think he's going to lose to Zala here again. I don't know if he gets finished. Well, hopefully not. We want to see some more finishes. I don't care if they're even subs. Let these guys get out of there fast, but I think it could be a very close fight. One thing I would like to see is, the striking advantage could definitely be for Aaron's runs. But Zala, I think, is going to have good enough defense and be able to counter. I don't think he's as big as a boxer as you kind of saw somebody like Herbert last week look really good on the feet. And I think that's somewhere where Aaron, he's more of a submission specialist, and I think in those scrambles, he can end up losing, getting in bad positions, make a mistake. And I think Zala is one of those guys to absolutely capitalize on one mistake being made. I think it could be a very competitive fight up until the point of something happens in the octagon and it's over. I think it could be over quicker than we expect. I think while Aaron's has great grappling experience, I think Zala can make it better. Tough losses to Woodson and Taporia in his past, and some nice wins that I really like. He's got some striking as well that I think is very strong, and I like Youssef Zala here. Hopefully a bit by a finish here. Second round would be my prediction. But bang, moving on here, short and sweet. We're going to the heavyweight division, and I hope it is short and sweet. Hanata Dinzi versus Carl Williams, 7-0 versus 10-1. And kind of, I don't want to say a clash of styles, but definitely something to go in between here is Dinzi is all knockouts and Carl Williams is all decision. So what are we going to see here? Is he going to be able to bring the power, bring the explosiveness, something like Gazeve versus Dontrell Mays, which I had a completely wrong pick on last week. Williams is one of those guys, he's going to look to beat you up, look for that advantage, and if you're not on your A game, he's going to punish you. He's got a lot of octagon time against a lot of people. And that's what kind of scares me here about going with Dinzy is if he can't get him out, if he doesn't knock out somebody like Carl Williams, it could be a long day in the office, right? And I kind of leaning towards that way initially. I really just going to pick Carl on the experience factor because if you're only, no offense, Austin Lane is not really a professional fighter versus Carl Williams has been in scraps. All of his decisions are unanimous. So we might be able to see a pretty boring one here. I'm actually going to go pick Williams on the official page. Dinzy's got a great chance to knock him out. Hopefully he brings the power, the speed, the athleticism that he's not able to see. Or that he really hasn't seen as much. Somebody to challenge him and make him feel uncomfortable. That's really what this fight comes down to. I think it's a very even matchup. It's whichever fighter is going to be able to make the other fighter uncomfortable, right? If you have, what's the game plan looking for like Diniz? And what's the, we know what the plan's going to look like. He's going to try and control the distance, going to outstrike, defend, and hopefully not get leaned on. But, I don't really see much of a grappling game from Diniz, and I think that's really something that's going to benefit Carl Williams in this matchup. I think the experience also is a major, major factor. And I just like the time to go up. And I mean, it could be very close decision. I'm not feeling like this isn't 100% confident, especially on a big underdog pick, because I could see Williams getting knocked out. It's not really happened in his career, but that's, I think, the X factor that we want to see. And right now, with the way the UFC fights have been playing out, I'm really not trying, even though there have been some knockouts by the heavyweights early on in the cards the last couple weeks, it's just something that I don't want to hang my hat on because there's nothing worse than rooting for a guy that needs to kind of knock him out and him just getting pieced up and point fought, which has been very stylistic of the UFC in the last, honestly, this calendar year has been very, very point fighty, very don't make any mistakes. The stakes are so high. The guys are so talented. And I think that's kind of the evolution that we're seeing here recently. I'm going to pick Carl. He's probably going, I would pick him on the card. Could be very close. Definitely if he gets his bell rung. But I think he's tough too. I think he's got that grit, and I think he'll get the job done. I got Carl Williams in the men's heavyweight division. Put an L on Diniz. Moving on here, we got the women's bantamweight. Carol Rosa, 17-6 versus Penny Kinzad, 17-8. Both ladies coming off a loss. A little bit of an advantage for Kinzad in the reach and length department. And I kind of like Rosa here to bounce back. She took that absolute beating from Irene Aldana, and then she came back with another, I think it was a grappling loss. So I think she's really going to feel the desperation. She's going to come out firing. She's a little bit younger, and I think that 5-round experience against Aldana, as bad as it is, she does have a win against Santos, who's also on the card. She fought Dumont. She's a solid fighter. I just think Kinzad is just a little bit more vulnerable and susceptible to somebody that is gonna bite down on the mouthpiece 100%. Like if Irene Aldana didn't finish Carol Rosa in that one fight that they fought on, I believe it was Noche, from last year, man, I don't know what's ever gonna finish Carol Rosa, and I like her to have a big comeback victory, get in the win column, possibly a finish. I'm not really too confident in her, but I definitely like a strong outing from Carol Rosa. She did also beat up Aldana in the same aspect. Now, she just took way more damage, but she still was throwing. She still was competitive, and it wasn't a complete, it was a complete bloodbath, but it wasn't a one-sided bloodbath. I'm picking Carol Rosa here. Get back in the win column, and look forward to something else for her at the end of the year. I think there's a lot of spicy matchups. I think she can go get Loopy or even Dern after a win. A lot of possibilities in this fight, but should be a long fight. I like Rosa here. Maybe even to snag a finish somewhere in there. Very high on Rosa. I think our talent is good, and I think she had a bad matchup against Aldana, and it made her look really bad. And I'm not going to hold that against her because I think Penny is just, when she fights that next level of person, she has not raised her game yet, right? losses to Chiesa, Vieira, Pennington, all ranked top tier fighters. And that's why I'm picking Rosa here to get on the board. This fight is canceled. Thanks, UFC, for updating your website. Okay, we're moving on to the men's bantamweight division. Toshiomi Kazama versus Charalampos Grigorou. 10-4 versus 8-4. Both boys coming off a loss. 5'7" standing in there. A little bit of a reach advantage for Kazama. And all I got to say about this one is I'm going to look at where they train, who they train with, and what's going in here. Now, this is not really a dig at Kazama too much. I haven't really watched him fight. I think I remember the Garrett Armfield fight. Looks solid. You know, Armfield fought recently. I believe he got the win. No, he lost to Brady. So, you know, 6 in one half dozen in the other. That's why I'm leaning heavy for Grigorou. Trains at Longo Serra Gym. That bantamweight division, you know he's getting rounds with Marab, rounds with Aljo, and I just think he's going to stay composed. He's going to stay disciplined. They're going to preach position, not submission. I think he's going to get this guy in bad spots. Great takedown defense. The striking is where Kazama needs to come in and win by, but I could see him getting a ground and pound. Especially not trying to give up the position. If Kazama is not good on the back, he could be an early night. I could see a first round finish here. I think Grigorou has a great chance to be maybe in a performance of the night. You know, call me a homer. I'm a Sarah Longo homeboy fan, but I really respect what they do. They put in a lot of great rounds, a lot of great training, and whatever you want to say about them losing in the big matches, they still get to the big matches, which means they beat these guys on the undercard. I got Grigorou, big experience advantage, big training advantage, big grappling and striking advantage. I got him all day. I think that one's pretty solid, and we'll be moving on into the flyweight division. A very fascinating matchup. Alan Nascimento versus Rafael Filho. 20-6 coming off a win versus 16-3 coming off a win. And boy, oh boy, is this a very spicy fight. I don't know too much about Nascimento. He's gotten a few bouts in the UFC over the years. I just don't think I'm got Filho here. With Nascimento, he's not been too active. He's finished fights, but I think they've been against worse opponents. I think Filho, I could always remember the Makayev fight, and I mean, the guy literally felt like he broke his leg, but he's come out strong recently after that, too, with 2 straight submission finishes, and I think his ground game is absolutely top tier, Rafael Filho. I think he has an absolute chance to make some waves, get into the rankings of the flyweight division, and with another finish on the board. I think he gets people in bad positions and is really good where people don't want to be. He was winning the fight against Makayev. He had him finished. Dude, that leg that he pulled on Makayev was disgusting. I think he gassed himself out, and then once he lost a position with no gas, he got finished. I think the fight got finished in the last minute. I like Rafael Filho. I think he'll try and control the fight. I think he'll try and work submissions. I really want to see a big step up in what he can do if he can't get the submission, right? What is he going to do on the striking? What's the ground game? What's the damage going to look like? What's the progression? And I think he still has it, right? He's finished guys in the flyweight division, Vinicius, Salvador. You know, he has also punches on ground and pound. I think Nascimento is kind of ripe for an upset here. I think he has a lot of potential, but I don't think he's really been challenged against somebody that has been there. Like, the more and more I've been watching the last few years, the more and more you can see when guys come up versus guys they haven't seen. And I'm a big fan of the experience, man. I think there is something to be said about, even last week, we took a chance on Jordan coming in there. He looked good for the first round, did disgusting damage to my guy's eye, but he just gassed out, lost it. And just lost the fight. And I think Filho is going to get the job done. I think he's going to get a ranking at the end of the week. And I'm really looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a heck of a scrap. And I think it's going to be one of those that keeps us on the edge of our seat. Moving on here. All right, we got Danny Barlow. Medic had to pull out. He is fighting Nikola Venevikov. Venevikov is 12-4 at 34 years of age. UFC debut against Danny Barlow, and that's all I'm going to talk about. Nikola, the replacement for Medic. I think Danny Barlow is absolutely a matchup nightmare in the welterweight division, and I think he can put an absolute hurt in from range on this week. That's where I'm leaning on. That's what I'm expecting. Fought Josh Quinlan recently. He was beating him up for 2 rounds. Quinlan gave him a chance. He tried to go for it and got absolutely starched in the 3rd round. I think confidence is at an all-time high for Danny. In the welterweight division, I think just the air of perfection is in their brain. Like, there's so many top gangsters in the welterweight division. Shavkat, so many great guys up there. I think we see Danny Barlow put a nice performance on there. Get into the win column against a replacement fighter making his UFC debut. There is no chance I'm picking against Danny Barlow there. Keeping it short and sweet. Man's got a huge reach, 79-inch reach, and I'll give you the, we'll give you the metrics here on Werner Tenikov. 6'1", 74-inch. So not as bad, but still, those long arms were absolutely problematic when he fought last time against Quinlan. And I'm not saying Quinlan, he's been cut. Barlow, or not this, Barlow's opponent has fought some good competition. Michael Morales in the Contender Series, and Morales is an absolute gangster. But I kind of feel like if you're going to lose to a young guy like that in the Contender Series at 34, they're trying to give you a chance, give you a run. I got Danny Barlow all day. Short and sweet. Moving on here. Going to the women's bantamweight division. Yana Santos versus Chelsea Chandler. 14-8 coming off a loss versus 6-2 coming off a win. And this one kind of been going back and forth. I think Santos has a lot of chances to lose the fight as well. I got Chandler here, and I don't think it may not be too close. I think she's the better potential, right? I think when you want to look at that, Santos has a great chance to put a hurting on her, but it's not like Chandler's a young gun. It's not like there's nothing else really going on for her. But Santos can lose every single way, right? If Chandler has a position that she's better in and can take advantage of, I think that's really where she gets the win. That's where she's shining for the win, and that's where I'm predicting her for the win. I think Santos has to win on the card, but I also think Chandler can get the position on Santos and go from there. Don't know too much. Chandler's got the ground game. She's going to probably have to strike. And if Santos is equal to the striking but worse on the ground game, which she has been subbed a few times in her career, I think she's just poised to take another loss, unfortunately. And has lost a couple times via submission. A loss to Kyle Rosa, Holly Holm, and Ariana Aldana. 3 in a row. I got to pick Chandler here all day. I don't think it's very close either. She's actually a big underdog, which is fascinating to me. Let's see how that pans out the rest of the week as we record the video on Monday. But Chelsea Chandler here, I think, is poised to get a nice win. I can't really ever expect a finish from these ladies, but I think we should expect to see some carnage. I think the more and more these ladies get deeper into the card, the better and better their skills get. The more experience these ladies have, the better they seem to look in the octagon. That is very ironic to say, is like the women fighters seem to be peaking a little bit later. I just think by the time they get to the level of training, the physical strength, and just the overall number of reps they needed, they tend to be a little bit older, right? It's hard to compare the amount of training a 33-year-old person can do versus a 26-year-old person. Those 7 years is an apprenticeship to become a professional, right? Now, if you're extremely talented, that's one thing. And in the women's division, I feel like the talent level is way closer than sometimes the men can be paired up with. And that being said, both of these ladies are highly experienced, and that's why I'm leaning Chandler here. I think she just has more of an opportunity and just more confidence, right? I always think sometimes that confidence is in there. If you're feeling the pressure and then you're getting beat up a little bit, and, one thing is all it takes to unravel in a fight, and I like Chandler here. Not going to break it down too much. You can see she's got some grappling, she's got some striking. But overall, I can really just see Chandler taking home a nice decision victory. 29-28. We did see, this is what I'm saying. Like, even like thinking about the last week with Sam Hughes, like she looked so good in those second and third rounds and beat an undefeated young fighter. I just think just those sweat equity rounds in training that you get fight after fight after fight is really what makes a difference here. And like I said, they're both experienced, but I like Chandler there. The confidence to keep coming back is something that I'm not sure if Santos has, right? Like, we've seen at least Hughes do that in other fights, hit big punches at the end. But Chandler here. Moving on, this is one of my favorite fighting matchups of the weekend. Damon the Demon Jackson, 23, 6-1, 5'11" versus Jose Chepi Mariscal, 16-6, 5'7". Definitely a big reach disadvantage here, but this fight, I feel like, is going to go Dan Ige, Andre Filio. Chepi Mariscal is maybe one of my favorite fighters on the roster, man. His attitude, his grit, just the way he conducts himself inside the octagon. His last win versus Morgan, right? Morgan Chariri, an absolute killer of a striker, split decision win, very, very close. And my guy Chepi is just, I'm going to ride with him until he doesn't. I think he's going to have a huge advantage. I think he actually has a great knockout chance as well. Damon the Demon Jackson, we all become fans of him, man. He's really impressed me the last few years. Like, I thought he was such a pincushion, and he came back very strong against some very tough people. And, he's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of grit, man. I'll never forget his Octagon interview. One of the first times that you really see them beat how human the fighters are. And I don't want to root against him. The only thing, but I got my guy Chepi Mariscal. Like, he is just, in my opinion, I think he's locked in. I think he's one of the most, he's a very cerebral fighter. I think he's very well prepared. I think he took some losses to some big guys earlier. Somebody like Jordanison Brito. Even Steve Garcia absolutely throws haymakers. He got a KO the other week, right? So he's fought against those guys that I've picked very highly, and I think he's in that class. He's a very highly skilled fighter. One of my favorites on the, I will say I am probably his number one fan in all of UFC. Chepi Mariscal, all day, every way. I think he gets the job done. I think he's just smooth with it. I think he's fast, quick, powerful. In the featherweight division, he's definitely going to be at some disadvantages here. But the one thing that I think is the difference in the featherweight division when we get some of these smaller guys against the longer guys is the power, the speed to power ratio to get in there before these guys can figure it out. It's very unique. It doesn't really exist so much in the bantamweight division because the guys really can't generate as much power. But these guys cutting to 145 really can add, I feel like, have that extra bit of power. That's where I like Chepi here. I'm hoping he finishes Damon the Demon Jackson just because I want him to get the recognition I feel like he truly deserves, man. If you watch that guy, he's absolutely a gangster in the octagon, a true cage fighter, and I'm going to call it my current favorite fighter, dark horse fighter, Chepi Mariscal, man. You can put him on the board. Yes. Come on, Chepi. You're my man, dude. Let's go. Moving on here. And this is a fascinating matchup here, ladies and gentlemen. We got Chris Gutierrez, 25-2, coming off a loss, versus Javid Basharat, 14-1, coming off a loss. Metrics being even. Man, what a matchup. Now, I've been on the Basharat bandwagon for a while here, and I might be off of it here. I might come back on it. I hope you guys let me back on it if I pick against Basharat here. But I have not been impressed with the fights that I even been watching from him. Even his brother, I don't think was as impressive as I wanted him to be, and I know that has nothing to do with one another. He lost as a hobby, and it was unanimous, right? I think he seems like he doesn't have the juice in the gas tank. And somebody like Chris Gutierrez has been against everybody in the UFC, right? He's not afraid to go up against anybody. He's fought some absolute certified ranked killers, Yang Sedong, Pedro Munoz. He's gotten some great wins in his career, but I also think this is the one that he needs right now more than ever. He doesn't have a big-time win against somebody like Basharat, a big-time, I would say, big prospect. And I think this is where Gutierrez will shine. I think the experience advantage, I think he'll be able to defend, and I think he's a better striker than Basharat. I think one thing recently is I saw it last week. The better boxer, the guy that can tap into that skill set better, like Jai Herbert versus Bedoya, is just at an advantage, right? If you can't get your combos to land, which Basharat is not, he hasn't been that clean with it, right? The fight before that, he kicked the dude so hard in the groin, he was throwing up after. If you guys remember that, he said the ref said he wasn't kicked in the groin, Henry, and he was out for 5 minutes. It was one of the most egregious groin shots I've ever seen, full on, and yeah. And I think after that, it messed with his confidence, and I still think he might not have it back. Because just like Gutierrez needs a big win, I think Basharat does too. Because I could see him being one of those guys where it's like, hey man, what have you doing for us lately? Even your wins, unanimous decision. Like Chris Gutierrez is gonna live there, and you're gonna take Chris Gutierrez. If your plan is to take Gutierrez to the card, I just don't like your chances. Not when you're not that kind of, not when I don't know. I really am a fan of Gutierrez. I think he has a lot of potential. So much heart, so much grit, so much determination. I'm taking Gutierrez here. I think I'm going against the Basharat bandwagon one more time. I hope I'm off of it at the right time versus the wrong time. Could be one. Even if I eat crow, man, some of the fights look bad. I just love watching them. So let's go Chris Gutierrez on the official pick. Javid Basharat back to the drawing board. And really got to turn it up after this one, because I think Gutierrez, he's just got good. He's got good fight time, even losing. That is saying he can lose, right? He could definitely lose another decision if he can't get off of some wrestling. But I think he might even have a little bit of a strength advantage against Basharat. He looks very lean. He really, as you want to see somebody control fights, he's not as controlling as you would like from my the 3 fights that the 2 fights that I've watched him. I even watched him in the Macedonia fight, right? Or Mendonca. And he looked good, but it also looked like he could have lost that fight as well. So when you go to the scorecard, you never know what it can be like. Let's go Chris Gutierrez to look good. The co-main event. And then, ladies and gentlemen, the main event, the heavyweight clash, Tybura versus Spivac 2. I don't know what to say about this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how Spivac is a favorite here. I was not a big Tybura fan, but I after his first off, they fed Aspinall. He got eaten by Aspinall, right? That freaking, you go watch Aspinall knock him out. He hits the chin, he folds like a lawn chair. But after that, dude, he destroyed Tai Tuivasa. And I kind of think Spivac is more of the Tuivasa train, right? Now, I'll say I did pick Spivac against Gane, one of the worst picks I've ever had. But, I don't have anything. I have no belief in Spivac, right? I just think he's a good fighter, but he's not a great fighter. I think Tybura is going to be the one to get the job done. I think he's got an advantage in the strength department, a little bit faster of a speed advantage. And when it goes to the ground, I think he's going to be the aggressive one. I think Spivac tends to be a little bit more passive. And if somebody like Cyril Gane is going to get to you, then I think Tybura can get to you. Not a super high confidence pick, especially being an underdog, but I'm going to go with the underdog. Sometimes, I don't believe Spivac should be a favorite at any stretch of the mean. If anything, it should be very much a pick'em fight. So that being said, I'm definitely going to take the lean on Tybura there, especially if he's an underdog. 38 is high, pretty old, but these guys do get pretty old pretty fast. Spivac 29. Is he committed? Is he, what's been going on? I don't know. We're about to find out. It's a rematch, right? What happened in the first fight? Let's take a look. Tybura by decision. 5 rounds. I think somebody gets finished here. But, I got Tybura. I think he's going to get a finish, a ground and pound. No sub. I think the defense is going to be too good. He'll look for the posturing and the pummels. Tybura on the win in the main event. We'll do a little recap here. We got Luciano Zala, Carl Williams, Carol Rosa. That's a no fight. We got Gigaru, Hafefilio, Danny Barlow, Chelsea Chandler, Cheppy Mariscal, Chris Gutierrez and Marcin Tybura. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Man, I really enjoy bringing these videos to you every week. I hope you guys enjoy listening to them if you made it this far. I really love you. Predict 100% of the card right in the comments, and I'll give you $100. Just like and subscribe to the channel is all I ask. Hope you guys have a magnificent day. Many blessings and peace and love, everybody.